Hello, welcome to the third installment of Seaball's channel. This is Chisholm Woodson. Bear Down Billiards shirts. I'm not wearing one of the shirts right now, but seems to have garnered a lot of interest and getting a lot of orders in. I really appreciate it to anyone who's watching who's ordered them, and the ones that are on the way. They are going to the printer tomorrow as we speak. Took a little bit to get them shipped in. Anyway, the last one was with Adam King, and we talked about morality and choices you make and that borderline gray area and what you do to win depending on the circumstance. Not to cheat, but to, well, just go back and watch the second one if you haven't watched it. But this one, I wanted to, this came up today. So, backstory, there's a big tournament that was this week called Derby City Classic. It's been going on for years in Louisville, I think it is. And all of the top pros from America and some from non-America come to it. It's a big event, and amateurs can play in it too. It's a really cool event. And one of our now local friends, well, not local, he's from Kuwait, but Omar Al-Shaheen, great guy, and incredible player. This happened to him today. There was a bit of conflict, and the whole thing was unfortunate, or for layman's terms, sucked. But so here's what happened. So first of all, there's three events. There's within this tournament, there's three different tournaments. There's bank pool, and then one pocket, and then 9-ball. And then each one's its own tournament, and you get paid depending on how you finish in that tournament. But you also get points. The higher up you finish, the more points you get. And then you total up your total points over the three tournaments, and the overall winner of that's called Master of the Table. And that is, in addition to being a big prestigious title, it also gives a pretty sizable cash payout too. I think maybe either 5,000 or 10,000. I'm not sure. But anyway, so our friend Omar was in first or second through the first two events. He came in second in the banks, and I think tied for 7th or 10th in the one pocket. So anyway, so he won a bunch of rounds in the 9-ball, and he's playing Dennis Rocoyo, who's from the Philippines and arguably the best at any given time, the best player on the planet. There's a bunch of guys that you could interchange there, but he's one of the favorites to win the Master of the Table in this. So the format is 9-ball, and it's winner break, race to 9. So conceivably, you could win the leg and then break and run 9 racks, and your opponent would never get to shoot. And so instead of using a traditional rack like this, have a thing called, the original incarnation was called the Magic Rack. It's this really thin little template that you put on the table, and all the balls touch each other, you break, that little template stays on the table, then after the break you lift it off. If there's a ball sitting on it, the ref will mark where the ball was, move it, put the template back. It's a great thing. It has its pros and cons, especially in 9-ball. Well, in 9-ball, the con is that with every ball touching, you can get the same kind of layout almost every single time when you break. And when you break, one of the wing balls will go in the corner almost every time. If they're touching, I mean, you could get someone who's never played pool before. As long as they can make contact with the one ball, then they're going to make a ball in the break. And one of the wing balls will go in depending on which side you break from. This is a wing ball, the 3 and the 6 in this particular. So on these two corners. And so either this ball will go straight into this corner pocket, or that one will go straight into that corner. So it takes a lot of the pros can put the balls in the same spot. They'll make the same ball. The rest of them will generally lay in the same area. When you're playing 8-ball, you don't get that same pattern because the balls will come out and run into each other, and the randomness of the chaosness of all the balls touching each other. You don't get exactly the same layout like you would in 9-ball. So what they do to combat this is instead of putting the 9-ball right here and the one goes on the spot, you have to put the 9 on the spot. So the whole rack is shifted up about 5 inches, 6 inches. So when you break the wing ball, this being one of these, I'll go over here so you can see. Instead of this ball going straight in here, it'll hit the rail right here, about the same distance of the rack being shifted up. So it makes it a lot harder to make a ball on the break. And so Omar was down 3-2, and he lost that game, and it was 3-3. And I'm trying to remember this as best I can. I think this is accurate. Now it's Dennis's break. He racks, he breaks, and he makes a wing ball in a corner, which isn't supposed to happen if all the balls are touching using this little template rack. It's a competitor of the diamond rack, but it's basically the same thing. And he runs out. He racks, same thing. Same wing ball goes in the same corner pocket. And Chris McDaniel, our friend who's filming it and is standing right behind Omar, says, "Omar, check the rack." And Omar doesn't, and he sits there, and Dennis does this 4 times in a row and wins 4 games in a row making this wing ball. And so now he's down 7-3 in a race to 9. And then Dennis racks the balls. Omar gets up, walks up and looks at the rack, and then just kind of goes like this and says, "Rack him again." You hear he's frustrated. And so Dennis goes up, racks him again. Omar looks at it, sees they're all touching, and he says something on the effect of, "I bet you don't make a wing ball this time." And sure enough, he didn't. He didn't make a wing ball. Now, he did end up making another ball on the break. The one ball went in somewhere. And now Omar is upset because if he loses this match, it takes him out of running of winning the master of the table. And so now here comes the morality debate about it. At first, when I'm watching it, because I'm friends with Omar, and I don't know Dennis at all other than watching him play, but I've never spoken to the man. And I don't know what his moral code is. From what I know of Omar, his is extremely high. He is a great dude. With Dennis, the video was broken up into 2 segments. The first one was the build-up of all this, then there was a bathroom break, and then he came back at 7-3, and that's when he told him to re-rack. And the first video kind of disappeared off of it. The second one recorded over it or something. I don't know. I couldn't find it. But as I remember watching it live on the Facebook stream, I don't remember Dennis, it didn't look like he was going up to the rack and pushing the balls in and then seeing they were all tight and then taking his finger and lifting one and moving it so it wasn't tight to create this tangent line to send the ball right into the pocket. My guess, just a guess, is that these little template racks get imperfections from being used over and over again, and they'll get little dents in them and creases. And so I'm guessing that he used it, pushed them all together, and maybe he looked down at it, maybe he didn't, but he looked, saw they weren't all touching, but just thought, I'll give it a shot and see what happens. It's pretty close to being touching. He broke, made a ball, and then ran out, and then the next rack he went, I'm just going to do the same thing until, and this says it in the rules, that your opponent can inspect the rack at any time and make you re-rack, because it's rack your own. Back in the old days, you used to rack for your opponent, which created way more conflict, because you can intentionally give your opponent a bad rack. So I don't think he was manipulating the rack intentionally, but the way the balls were setting up, he chose to not make it perfect. And so there's the gray area. And, I think in hindsight, I don't know, I'll have to ask Omar when I see him next, but I think that after the first time he made a wing ball and then broke again, Omar should have gone and checked the rack, but just being a nice guy, maybe he just thought it was an accident, which it may not have been, it may have been, or he so kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt. Then it happened a second time, then it happened a third time, and then now he's probably fuming. Well, I know he's fuming, and then the fourth time, and by then now he's down 7-3 when he finally calls him out on it, and he's so upset. There's no way he's going to come back and win this match. Dennis is too good of a player, and his emotions are running. Omar's emotions are running way too high, and so he should have checked after the first time, but he's also given him the benefit of the doubt. And so the question is, like I said, when I first watched it, it really bothered me, and I was like, screw that Dennis guy. I'm never going to root for him again, even though I don't know him. And I'm guessing if you talk to him individually, I haven't heard bad stuff about him before, not that I've heard that much either way. I would just wonder if it transpired the way that I think it might have, that he rolled the balls up, tried to get them tight, looked down, saw they weren't tight, and went, I'm just going to break them the way they lie. And if if this rack just sets up and no one's going to make me re-rack it again, I'm just going to do it. It's not my fault that the rack is a little faulty. I mean, to be able to do that intentionally would be blatantly obvious if he was taking his finger and moving individual balls in just the right spot. So if that is what happened, and obviously he knows it, he's arguably the best player in the world. The first time that wing ball went in, he knows as well as any amateur that uses one of those magic racks and has played 9-ball with it, that especially if you've played it with the 9-ball on the spot instead of the 1-ball, and that wing ball goes in the corner, you know that they weren't touching, because otherwise it never goes in unless it was somehow like kissed in off another ball. So he knew it, but was he being dishonest? Because within the rules, and again, this kind of harps back to the situations that Adam and I were talking about on the last video. It's not breaking the rules, it's just a moral question. And, the rule just says rack your own, and your opponent at any time, as many times as he wants. It's not clear either way. It doesn't say only once per time. I mean, you can sit there and say, nope, there's something wrong with that rack it again. And I think there's some rule. I think each tournament has its own rule set, probably along the lines of, if they can't come into an agreement, then they will get a referee to rack for both people the entire rest of the match. That's probably the way that tournament was set up, at least. So I don't know. I don't. It sucks because, I consider Omar a friend of mine, and I hate to see him lose like that. It sucked. If I was friends with Dennis and I didn't know Omar, I'd be like, hey man, the wing ball kept going in, but hey man, that other dude, he didn't inspect the rack, and it wasn't like you were doing it intentionally. It was just the way the balls were laying. And now, on the other hand, if he went, oh no, I actually have this really, I've been working on this. I very quickly just kind of lightly dragged my ring finger over this one ball and blah, blah, blah. I've been practicing it and it works, haha, I've been getting away with it. Now, if that's the case, I'd be like, dude, that's shady, and why would you do that? You don't need that to win. Someone's going to notice. That's not cool. So anyway, your thoughts on that, you can post them down below. And I don't know, just another one of those things that comes up. And I don't know, I hadn't seen anything quite like that with as far as the Magic rack. Well, I mean, I guess I had, but it's just people, and I don't know, I guess in that big of a tournament, and usually those racks are pretty infallible, that it freezes all the balls. Everyone, usually if there's a gap, the gap is so big that you can almost see it from sitting, or you can just watch when they push them together and one ball will roll off. But in this case, I bet that the gap was very, very small. Maybe there was more than one, I don't know. But anyway, so there's that rant. Tomorrow, Super Bowl. Patriots and Rams. I respect the Patriots organization for all the success they've had, but I don't think I'm alone here in saying I don't mind seeing them not have as much success. Not to mention the Rams haven't had success since the 90s. So I think you're either a Patriot fan or you're pulling for the Rams. That's it. And the line is, I think the Patriots are favored by 2 or 2.5, depending on which sports book or casino you use, or online casino. And the overs are like 58 or something like that. I don't know. Sounds like it's going to be a good game. I just hope it's a good game. I don't even know if I'll bet on it. I might put like $20 on it just to make it slightly interesting. But it's funny how many people bet heavily on the Super Bowl, and some don't even make one football bet the entire year, or maybe they make football bets where they're betting 20 a game, and the Super Bowl comes around, they bet 1,000 a game, or 1,000 for the game, because they're so sure about this game. They've watched the whole season. Like, how can you be more sure? What about the game before it? What about the AFC Championship, the NFC Championship? Why don't you bet 1,000 on that one? What makes the Super Bowl so special? And people just, they might have saved a little bit of money, and then they can lose it all in just one dumb bet, just pressing all their money in. And speaking of betting, have people out there noticed that on SportsCenter, they'll show like the highlights of some game, whether it's college. It seems like it's usually a college game, and they'll show the highlights, and some team wins by like 10 points, and then they'll go back and go, oh, this is this week's bad beat, and they'll recap the last 2 minutes where one team's up by like 9 points and the spread's like 10, and they're showing these meaningless fouls and layups at the buzzer. Like, they're basically encouraging gambling. Like, it is just a different day and age than it used to be. And they're talking about making it legal, at sports betting everywhere, which I think they should, because if you're going to bet on sports, you're going to find a way to do it. It doesn't matter. Because it's against the law, that doesn't stop you from going online and setting up an account, or getting a bookie or something, or finding a friend of yours who lives in a state that has legalized gambling. They can go make the bet for you. But there's a lot of tax revenue to be lost, because, like I said, people are going to gamble. If they want to gamble, they're going to do it. They're not going, oh, I really want to bet $100 on this game, but, oh, it's illegal in this state, so no, I can't. What a shame. Shucks. No, they're going to bet. And my mom lives in Charlotte, and she's a big Charlotte Hornets fan and has season tickets. And she was telling me that she had heard that if it does become legal, sports betting across the country and federally regulated, that they would have betting kiosks inside each arena. So if you go and see your team play in your town, you can just go and make a sports bet right there at the stadium. I mean, that's a different day and age. I mean, I don't think it's anything that would happen too fast because, I mean, as long as it took for Las Vegas to get a professional sports team, that took a long time. And the reason that it did was because they were worried about the gambling aspect. And again, the powers that be realized there's way too much money to be lost. So that'll be interesting. The game is tomorrow, so people can't post their thoughts on here. You know, that most of the people that do end up watching this, it'll be after Super Bowl's over. So you can't like put your picks in advance, and it would have been interesting. See what people's thoughts and wishes were, but I just hope for a good game. It usually is. Well, not always. Sometimes they're blowouts, and those are really boring. But we've been on a pretty good streak of good games, I think. I know definitely last year, and it just feels like in general, over the last 10 years, there have been some really, really good games. But anyway, that's it for now. C-Ball signing out. Until next time, see you.